all my work has been since almost since the time I remember, it's about 40 years spanning. It has been based on energies. At that time, I was not particular about Shakta cult or the yoginis or the mythological terms. I only wanted to talk about energies, like what is it that is ruling it, and who are we, and what am I, and who am I? And from that point, the movement is quite interesting. And by the time about 8 years back or 10 years back, I started to work on yoginis because I started to read so much about the Shakta cult, which I was so much interested in. And I realized that this word energy is the yogini. The yogini of the mythological term of the past is the energy to which I am relating to. And that fascinated me because we were talking about the intuitive energies, we were talking about the energies which you can probably extract from the prana shakti or from the nature around us, from the animals, from the every being, everything which is around us. It could be this table, it could be this light, it could be everything, because everything is a part of that complete consciousness, and everything has to be having that energy. Now, what is that energy, and how did I come to know about it? How did I come to know about these names, and who was the propounder of these energies? So I started to read more and more about it, and that is my passion, So, I did my philosophy honors, but before that also, I had been very, very intriguingly interested in reading more about all the faith's philosophies, because faith is the first thing which moves on to belief, and then it gets into a more profound space of experimentation. My language is the line form through which I sort of move on to different streams, and that's how this work also came about. In this, I have sort of worked upon the Bij mantra, through which all the centers of energies through us, within us. So we have the yoginis within us, we have these energies within us. In astrology also we have the yogini dasha, which is also that which yogini, which part of your body is activated during which period, and during which planet. So that the energy which is sort of connecting to a certain planet, so that yogini is getting activated in your body. What is this yogini thing that it is, and why suddenly people are talking about it? Because in the past almost 5 years, I have seen the rise of this term. It wasn't so easily used, and there was a certain apprehension to it, which I could not understand, which I am very happy that people are able to, the women are able to use that, because somewhere in the line there was a kind of a, you wanted to negate it, the feminine. Even the women didn't want to own up to the feminine, the yogini. Oh my God, that was something dark, that was something to do with Tantra. In fact, somebody also told me at one point that, oh my God, you know a lot about Tantrism, and maybe you do something when you go to these sites and all. So I was really surprised with that, and I said, how can we just negate such a profound science of intuition? It is a very gradual movement that I had. What sort of captivated me about Jausat Yogini, the first was the Shakti herself, the basic energy, that energy which has the feminine, who had the power to create, that immense power to create. She could expand, and sort of that sense of expansion was in her. When we come to the Jausat Yogini, I would like to go back, because it's something like a relationship growing constantly, wine getting older and getting tastier, and you start to enjoy that relationship. So that's what is happening with me. And it started, I have to go back to almost my childhood, when I was fascinated by this idea of Shakti, something which was so amazing, like I'd heard, because I didn't belong to a family where we had idol worship. We were Hindus, but we were from Arya Samaj, which we considered ourselves like believing in Vedanta, but Advait. So the idol worship was not there, and I stumbled upon this idol, and the fact that it just fascinated me, the fact that she was there and she could create and she could, the magic, so that fascinated me. And then I started to read, and the expansion, that everything which went to her became bigger, became better, became more beautiful, became the things. And then you connect it with Prakriti, nature, because I was also going through the philosophy at a very young age, the Indian philosophy, and the Purush Prakriti relationship, the Sankhya Yoga, and everything. So the sense of expansion, and then I sort of wanted to understand that, and the idea of Surya, the golden womb through which everything was expanding, recycled, constantly procreation was happening and recycling positively. There was nothing which was dying. So there is this huge lap which I saw as sun, through which everything is emerging. And it is like not a Pandora's box, but a space through which everything is just oozing out, and you can just see the glitter and the shine and universes and the stars and everything just expanding, and there's just the lap. So it was very fascinating till the time I came around this verse, Om Hiranyagarbha Samavartatagre Bhutasya Jata Patireka Asit Sadadhar Prithvim Dyamutema Kasmai Devaya Havisha Videma. So this was an ode to Surya or sun, which talked about Surya as a womb, as a golden womb, the first womb which is there, through which this universe and many universes, many more smaller sun, bigger suns are emerging out of it. There's nothing as death in the space called this golden womb, which was Surya. And rightly so, the heat and the energy which sun produces, life is because of that. There's no life without that. I still can get lost into that, because my work still revolves around that golden womb. Everything goes inside it, comes inside it. It's not a black hole, it is a golden hole. And that is the time I started to contest and question the patriarchal, this order which had seeped into our culture, and why it had come into it. What was the reason to negate the feminine? Why are we negating? And I feel that today, whatever the problems are there, it is because of the negation of the feminine. I am not negating the male aspect, but the male aspect is there. And so is the feminine. The male is the dormant, and the feminine is the celebration. That aspect which sort of brings about the whole cosmos into this motion, into this kinetic motion, which is that movement which is happening. We cannot negate it. We cannot. So I started to work upon it, and I saw Surya as the Ardhanarishwar, that form, which is the composite form of the yin and yang, the male and female together. And the female aspect is the one which is seen, the night and the day. And it brings about so much of romance and so much of rhythm, so much of motion in the whole activity. So from there, I moved to the Shakta cult, and I started to concentrate more upon that, because I thought whatever is happening is because of this world, this universe, this whole movement, me, you, everything, the plants, the animals, everything, the night, the day, the stars, everything is because of this energy, and I want to know more about it. So while I was studying it, the Shakta disintegrated into the three gunas, the triguna, the Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. That is what is making the whole universe move. These are the three energies, the dormant or the subliminal level. In our body, we have the same thing. Then you move on, it is the Rajas, where you have all the emotions, and then that is the Sattva, where the whole energy sort of concentrates into the spiritual aspect. And I started to see that these three energies, even while I was plaiting my hair, I could see the Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, the three energies. When I see the system within me, the Ida, Pingala and the Sushmina going up, again the Triguna, Ida, Tamas, Pingala, Rajas and Sushmana, the Sattva. So it's a play of the three. So these three more go deeper, they expand to the Saptamatrikas. The 5 is the Panchabhutas, which we all know about the 5 elements. So they disintegrated into that to create more. If we start looking at that Shakta form in a very physical aspect, it will look very mythological. But if you see it in a very experimental way and the scientific way, it seems possible. These are the 5 elements which sort of emerge out of these 3 gunas, which were only they were not, they were more of physiological, they were psychological, aspect of that Shakta form, and then they're coming down to the more physical, the 5 elements that we talk about, the earth, water, fire, air, ether, so they are experimenting. And then it is going further into the Saptamatrikas. And every time we would have basic puja, not in my own household, but outside my household where the priests would do the puja, they would put these 7 dots. And I would be very fascinated, what are these dots? They were never explained in a very dignified way, and I wanted to read more about it. And those Saptamatrikas then to me elaborated further into the Navdurgas. The Navdurgas into the Das Mahavidyas, the Das Mahavidyas further into the 21 yoginis, the 21 into the Chausat, multiplying further. And the Chausat again multiplying into 84 yoginis in Jabalpur. So we have a multiplication of all these energies, which was an expansion. If you just look at it from the Shakta form, all these energies just expanding and sort of moving out. It is different names, but that energy is constantly expanding. I like to visit these sacred spaces, these abandoned spaces, feminine spaces, but they're too powerful for the patriarchal system to handle it. After all, these are feminine spaces, and we do visit some of the spaces where these idols have been totally taken out and the male idols have been put in. Instead of the yoginis, the Shivalingams have been put without the yonis. They're just, just put there. And what happens if I go there and if I do meditate on these spaces, I do experiment with my own body, what happens to my archetypes? Why were they considered unholy? What was it? I do feel that they were not just idols, these were the women of those times. That was the time when imagery was, I think, the imagination of this imagery was so heightened that we had these forms of a horse or a snake's head or a boar's head. It was not that they were cut off and a boar's head was put there. It was not that. I don't believe it. At least as far as I want to interpret it, I want to interpret it as a time which was not a time of a bodily physical action. It was a time of a highly intuitive interaction. Or we could have those energies within us. We could restore those energies within us and then use them then use them in a certain way. And I see that the decline of the feminine has come down to a space, a time when it is totally intolerable. It has to revive. The hibernation is over, and I do feel that it is the time for it to come back. And these Chaussat Yogini that I worked upon are predominantly the women I've seen in life today, or how I see this energy as. So you will see a male figure also in it, because for me, the male physical form is also a garb. It is an outer garb. It is the energy. It is that feminine power which is making it work. Everything is a reflection. Everything is born out of it. So it is feminine. It is only the outer garb, the physicality, which can differ, just like a clothing. So I've used a form of Krishna as yogini, because he embodied everything. You know, Shiva is that aspect of Satya or Sattva, or that complete illumination which sort of consumes everything. But Krishna never had a problem being a gopi. He never had a problem being anything. He sort of confirmed the human behavior in all aspects, in all and every aspect. So I have depicted him as one of the yoginis. While I was in Mathura, Vrindavan, and I was going through all the temples, and one of my uncles would hold my hand and run me through, you know, the small gullies and take me around. Okay, here is Shiva is Gopeshwar, and here Krishna is with the gopis, and he's dressed like a gopi, but you can't find him out. Try to find him out. So it was like a play for me going around with my uncle. He's no more, but he introduced me to this amazing feminine energy. He was a Shakta Bhakt and also a Krishna Bhakt. So that aspect I have worked upon. I have worked upon the male and the female energies together as a tree. There is also a male-female form when they are embracing each other. So both are yoginis. That one energy which is male and one energy which is female is just about the consummation of that higher Shakta form which she wants to enjoy within herself. I see it like that. So yogini is for me everything. She is almost sort of coming around as all complete form of the male and the female within herself. I've also done Saraswati as a yogini because through her, while she was running through the patriarchal Brahma, she is creating the universe. She is creating all the animals. Just see the beauty of it, that she is running away from someone and she's getting into every aspect of creation she can dream about. Kali is my Ishta. So I see her as almost every form. That is the yogini, that who was totally liberated. She was not domesticated. None of the yoginis are domesticated. So I see that when Durga assumed the form, when she became Kali, and when she started to lick and she became the million tongues, Rakta Bij, that was the time that energy was sort of divided and she became almost visible everywhere. And that is the yogini. That's how I see the yogini. And it can go on and on. The tongue is the desire. So desire is through which the duality came. And why do we negate desire? I don't understand that. And I try to depict it with the tongue because I'm a foodie. I'm a foodie and also a devotee of Kali. Everything, the smell first comes to my tongue and then goes to my nose. the patriarchal way of understanding that the tongue of Kali, which was told to me, was that she was ashamed of herself the moment she stood on Shiva, while she was revamping the whole world and revamping the devils and also the devas. Because for her, there was no deva, there was no rakshas. You know, everyone was the same for after some time. She just wanted to kill and she wanted to just revamp everything. Okay, everything has to be in order. Now, let all the garbage go, you know. So that was the time when Shiva came and lied down in front of her. As it was told to me, it was that she was ashamed, and suddenly she said, "Oh my God, he's my husband, and how I could put my foot on her." And later, when I was reading all these books upon the Shakti cult and the various scriptures, it was so beautiful. I did a work in 2009 of Kali, and the third eye, instead of the eye, I had a couple, a male and a female, maybe a Shiva and a Kali herself, together as the retina of the third eye. And the lolling tongue that she has, it has the womb with the whole universe in it. I was fascinated to use the tongue, and I always thought that Kali's tongue has been really misunderstood. And I need to bring about this, that there's nothing wrong with desire. Desire is the innate need for us to be there. I must have been desired by someone to be born. How is that something that we should negate? While I was growing, we were introduced to Bhagavad Gita, and I know it by heart, and some chapters absolutely without any reading. So the 15th chapter, the first mantra, is about the tree. It talks about that life is like an inverted banyan tree. The roots of the banyan tree come down to the earth and become another tree. The same way, the actions, the human actions, are never ending. Whatever we will do, whatever we will sow, so shall we reap, which is such a common principle I think nature has given us. Nature gives us everything. It's given us this symbol of tree, which is universal to all faiths. There's not one single faith where tree has not been the inspiration for the sacred, spiritual, and the liberated souls. It is the only symbol which sort of has been there for million years before us, and it is still there. We may try to sort of make it extinct in any way, but it is not going. So I felt that this was something which sort of touched me completely. And also, again, it formed another womb. There was a circle around it. It sort of connected each one of us to the earth below us, the earth on which we are living, and the heavens above us. This painting, which I don't know, I have still not named it. And this is based on the wind energy, or I call them Gandharvas. These are the flying bodies, unseen flying bodies, which are all around us, male and female form energies which are there. They are those unseen bodies, like sometimes we are standing on the terrace. There's a whiff of air, and you feel, oh my God, there was a very, very beautiful fragrance. You haven't seen anything happening. There's no flower, but there is a fragrance. That is the blessing of a Gandharva. The space that we are in, there's so many unseen bodies here, which we can't even imagine. We just can't. We only see the physical form. We are not referring to anything which is unseen by our eyes or our senses. Sometimes our senses betray us. So these unseen bodies are all around us, and I like to give a very due regard or a respect to these souls which are all around us, helping things happen, because things cannot move on their own. These are those amazing energies which are around us, amazing souls which are around us, which are making things happen. So this is the work, an ode to them, to those unseen energies, those unseen bodies, which I call Gandharvas, which sometimes bring about a sense of music, a sense of happiness, a smile, a fragrance to us. And it's a very simple thing. And I have shown them the resting on the golden womb. They are resting themselves on this sense of creation which is happening all around us. So that is the work.